Hi guys, my name's Deb Marnie and I'm from Aussie Maille. Today I'm going to be doing what is basically a reshoot of a tutorial. I'm going to be doing the Azidahaka weave, which was one of our live streams, but unfortunately the stream was really glitchy and we decided to pull it off YouTube and just do a pre-recorded version because it's got a few steps in it and we didn't want people to miss out. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this video. As I said, we're doing the Azidahaka weave. Alright, so let's get straight into it then. Okay, so here's some sample pieces that I have made up of the Azidahaka weave. So this is the 14 and 16 gauge version. So 14 gauge AWG, which is 1.6mm diameter wire, and they are the AA rings, so the rings that form the half Persian 3-in-1 part of this weave. In this gauge I used 5/16 of an inch or 7.94mm, so it's these two rings here. This ring here, which has done the joining ring, so that one is 16 gauge AWG, which is 1.2mm diameter wire, and the ring ID there is 7 mils. Okay, this one is 16 and 18 gauge, so 16 gauge AWG. The AA rings, the anodized aluminium rings, are 7/32 of an inch or 5.56mm ID, and the joining ring, the one up the middle in bright aluminium, is 18 gauge AWG, which is 1mm diameter wire, and it has an internal diameter of 6 mils. And then lastly, this is the 18 and 20 gauge version. So 18 gauge AWG in the anodized aluminium is 3/16 of an inch or 4.76mm ID. And the joining rings are 20 gauge AWG, which is 0.8mm diameter wire. And I used a 4.75mm ID ring there. So this is the Azidahaka weave as a bracelet. I also want to talk to you quickly about another weave that is very similar to Azidahaka, and I have seen it called Azidahaka quite a lot. It's this one here. So as you can see, it is just about identical. So, you know, it's certainly easy to understand the confusion. The difference lies in the positioning of the center rings here. Okay, so you can see if we put it sideways, the Azidahaka rings, you've got these ones going up, these ones going down. Okay, so there's sort of like a little bit of a V going on in the interaction between these two rings here on the side. In this one, which is called, let me just double check that, Persian Ridgeback, sorry, I forgot the name for a minute. This one's called Persian Ridgeback, and you can see when you go to the side that these rings here are at the same angle. So they're not coming in at each other like they are in Azidahaka. You can see one comes in like this, one comes in like this. These ones here, they're all at the same angle. Okay, so as I said, they're very, very similar weaves. You can make them up very similar ways. This one I created by doing a 3/4 Persian first and then joining, adding the extra rings. This one was created by making two half Persian 3-in-1 pieces and then joining the rings, which is the way that they are described on Maille Artisans. So check out Maille Artisans if you want a little bit more information there. But just, you know, just to show you that very similar weaves, there are slight differences in them, and they do have two recorded different names. Now to do that, as I said, we need to create two pieces of half Persian 3-in-1, and we need one to be right leaning and one to be left leaning. Okay, so I'll just take you through how to make those two pieces. So we're going to start with left leaning half Persian 3-in-1 first. And what we do here is we pre-close half of our rings, half of our large rings. In this case, I'm pre-closing all my dark colour rings. So these are royal blue, and my sky blue rings, my light blue rings, are going to be all opened. So then I take 3 of my pre-closed rings and I stack them up behind each other like this, okay? And then I just take a twist tie and I run it through the whole 3 of them just to help hold it a little bit into position. You just need that for the first couple of steps. Half Persian 3-in-1 is very unstable at the beginning, and this just helps hold it together. Okay, so once you've got your 3 rings stacked up behind each other like that, and it is important that they're stacked up behind each other, we're then going to take one of our opened rings and we're going to feed it through these 2 rings here at the beginning. So you can see when the rings are stacked up, they've got what we like to, where they overlap, we've got what I call eyes, what we like to call eyes. So with Half Persian 3-in-1, we've got through the eye, and then we've got around the eye, where the ring will go through those rings, both of those rings, but it goes around that eye there. So through the eye or around the eye. So our first step is going to be through the eye, and it's going to be through that first eye there that's formed by rings 1 and 2. So we just put it straight through and close it up. Okay, so we then take another opened ring, and this time we want to go through the eye formed by rings 2 and 3, but around the eye that forms by rings 1 and 2, staying on top of the ring that we just placed. So through the eye formed by rings 2 and 3, around the eye formed by rings 1 and 2. And then we just close that up. Okay. And that's the start of our weave. Alright, so Half Persian 3-in-1 means that 1 ring goes through 3. And to do that, what I do is I take one of my opened rings, I pop on one of my pre-closed rings, and that becomes ring number 1. And with Half Persian 3-in-1, the way I do it is we go down through 2 rings and up through 1 ring. So down through 2 rings means just coming down from the back of the weave. Up through a ring means coming up from the front of the weave. So this ring here becomes our first down ring. So this is down through 1, 2, so we just go to that ring there, and then up through 1. So we just go up through the next ring in our weave. We make sure that we're just sitting on top of the previous ring. Okay, don't scoop up that ring like that. We want it just sitting on top. And then we close that ring up. Okay, and our work looks like this. So we've got this loose ring here on the end. What we do is we take another opened ring. We pop on a pre-closed ring. So that's ring number 1. So down through 1, 2, and up through 1. And close the ring. And we just keep doing that. So take an opened ring, pop on a closed ring, that becomes your first one. So down through 1, 2, and up through 1. Okay. What I like to do when I've got a little bit of stability in my weave is I remove this twist tie here, because it does bunch these rings up a little bit. It makes it feel a little awkward. And I just pop it through those first 2 rings there. Twist it back up again. Okay. So this is our left leaning, and I'll show you how you can tell it's left leaning. If you look at this weave here and you're looking at the eyes that are formed by these rings here, you can see that they lean to the left. Okay, so the rings that our opened rings are leaning to the left. Okay, so we just want to keep making that the length that you require your bracelet to be. You don't have to really add any extra length or anything to your work. So as I said, down through 1, 2, remembering down through being coming up through the back of the weave, and then up through 1. So I just say that to myself as I weave along normally, just so that you remember. So down through 1, 2, and up through 1. Okay. You may do this differently, and that's fine, as long as the result ends up the same. This is just the way that I have always done it. There are many ways to do half Persian weaves. So whatever works for you, whatever is best, you do that. But this is just the way I've always done half Persian 3-in-1 left leaning. Okay, got one more of my prepped rings to add. So down through 1, 2, and up through 1. And you can see there that our blue ring has got 3 rings, 3 dark blue rings hanging off it. So that's how we know it's half Persian 3-in-1. Alright, so when you get to the length of your bracelet, you're going to have this ring here, this loose ring hanging around, and we don't want that. So what you want to do is just take another open ring. This time we're not going to pop an extra ring on it, we're just going to go down through 1 and up through 1. Okay, and that just finishes the weave off nicely. So that's your half Persian 3-in-1 piece, and I'll show you how you can do your half Persian 3-in-1 left leaning, and now I'll show you how you can do your half Persian 3-in-1 right leaning. Okay, so again we start this weave with 3 of our closed rings on a twist tie. This time though we're stacking these rings so they're sitting from left to right on top of each other. So before the ring stacked up behind, this time they're going to stack up on top of each other. Alright, now to start this off, we're going to take up an open ring, and this time we're going to go around this first eye. Okay, so in left leaning we went through that eye. This time we're going to go around it, and we close that up. So that's our first ring placed. Our second ring needs to go through that eye, but around the eye formed by rings 2 and 3. So through the eye formed by rings 1 and 2, and around the eye formed by rings 2 and 3. Okay, so just pop that in there like that. So through the first eye, around the second eye, and we close that up. This time you notice that the light blue ring is going underneath the previous one. Before we were putting it on top, this time we want to put it underneath. Okay, and then like before we're going to take up an open ring. We're going to pop on one of our pre-closed rings, and see the eye here formed by rings 2 and 3. We're just going to pop it straight through there. Okay, making sure it goes under our previous light blue ring and through the eye this time. We close it up, and we've got this ring here that really flops around. So when we're ready to weave our next ring, we need this to actually be sitting at the front. You can see that the others are stacking up like that. We need to stack this one the same way. So make sure that sits at the front. You will have to hold it there, it's not going to stay there by itself. So take up another prepared closed ring, pop it on an open ring, and this time we want to go through our loose ring and then through the ring before it. So through the eye that's formed by the loose ring and the previous ring. And we just close it up. Okay, and we make sure that sits at the front. So you can see that pattern happening there. So make sure our loose dark blue ring is sitting at the front. Take up another prepared unit of one closed, one open. And then we want to pop it through those 2 rings there through the eye. Okay, it's as easy as that. Make sure you keep it underneath the previous ring and close it up. So as I said before, there are many ways to do half Persian 3-in-1. If this isn't the way you do it, that's fine. If you're having difficulty understanding this way, you know, check out YouTube. I'm sure there are plenty of other videos out there that will show you how to do it, but this is the way I like to do it. So I've got one of my prepared units together, and I'm just going to go through those last 2 rings there and close it up. Okay, and I'm just going to do that for the length of the bracelet. So you obviously want this to be the same length as your left leaning. So I'll show you here. I'll just remove the twist tie and I'll put it through the first 2 links as I did before. And this time you can see that the eyes here are leaning to the right side of the weave, that these light blue rings here, our opened rings, lean to the right, whereas the piece we did previously, you can see that it leans to the left. Okay, so I'm just going to keep making this piece up so that it reaches the length of our left leaning. So I've got one of my prepared units, and I'm going to make sure that that ring is sitting at the front, and then I'm just going to go down through those 2 rings there at the front. Okay, and just do that until you reached the length that you need. And I've got one more to place. So just down there through those 2. And then of course you're left with the dangling ring, which you know we don't want. So to finish up, once you get to the end that you need, put it through the front, on the front like you would normally, and then just go straight through those 2 rings. Okay, so that it looks like that on the end. And that's it. That's your 2 pieces of left leaning and a piece of right leaning half Persian 3-in-1. Okay, so the next step is to show you how to join these up. Alright, so we need to join our 2 pieces together. Now to do this, half Persian 3-in-1 has a concave and a convex side. So this is the convex side, or the ridge side, and this other side is concave, or it's got a bit of a trough. We want to be working on the concave section for this next step. So what you need to do is we want to join our 2 light blue, or what were our opened rings, together to form the center piece. So this is our left leaning piece, and you can see that our light blue ring here is on the outside at the beginning of the weave, but that same position for the right leaning piece is at the end of the weave. So we take our right leaning piece and we want to bring this up to the beginning, so the end becomes the beginning. So what I do is I just remove the twist tie from the other end, or if you've got another twist tie, use that instead, and just pop it through the end of the right leaning piece, so that when you put them both together in the position that we want, they look like this. So remember, we've got our light blue rings forming the center. We're working on the concave, or the trough side of the weave, and we've got our light blue rings sitting on the outside of the dark blue, whereas you can see on the other end, they're sitting on the inside. And then what I just normally do is, to keep this together, I just twist my 2 twist ties so we can just make a start. Okay, and then taking up one of our joining rings, what we want to do is we want to come down to the second light blue ring here. We want to come through the back of it, through the front of the one before it, and then on the other side we want to go through the back of the first one and through the back of the second one, the one after it. Okay, and then we can close that up. Okay. And this is what our work currently looks like. So we just want to zip down the whole seam. So we go down to our next loose ring. So one that doesn't have a ring through it yet, a silver ring through it yet. We go through the back of that one, around through the front of the previous one. Now we want to go underneath the ring that we placed before. We come up through the back of that ring there on the other side, and we go down through the front of the next ring in line. And then we close that ring up. Just like that. Okay. And you just keep going down the length of your bracelet until you've stitched all of it together. So go down to the next loose ring, go through the back, through the front of the one before it, scooching in underneath the previous ring that you placed, going through the back of the ring on the other side, and then through the front. So it just goes around nicely in a circle, and then you just close it up. So you can see here that our side rings are coming in at angles to each other. You can see this one's coming up, this one's going down. As a note, if you were to do exactly what I've done with these silver rings, but on the other end of the bracelet, you actually produce the Persian ridgeback. Okay? So if you do this on the other end, you produce the Persian ridgeback. Alternatively, instead of putting the rings underneath, if you put the rings on top, you'll do a Persian ridgeback. So you can see how very, very close they are in relation to each other. It is just really the placement of this joining ring where it ends up. So as I said, just keep going all the way down until you have joined your 2 pieces together. Through the back, through the front, scooching underneath, through the back, through the front. Okay, so you, as I said, just keep going all the way to the end of your bracelet, and you'll have made the Azidahaka weave. So just to give you a quick demonstration on how I finished this off. So on the beginning of the weave, I took the twist tie off and I put a small chain of small rings, smaller clasp attachment rings. I mean, this clasp attachment will depend on what clasp you've chosen. For the lobster clasp that I've used, I needed to put at least 2 rings. You might want to put a little extension chain on there. So I did that through the 2 middle rings. Okay. On the other end, I just put the clasp attachment through the 2 bottom rings and stuck my lobster clasp on there. And that's it. Okay, so that's it. That's the Azidahaka weave. I hope that this video makes up to all those guys who turned up to our live stream and it was a bit dodgy, and that those who didn't see the live stream have enjoyed this tutorial. If you did enjoy the tutorial, guys, don't forget to give us a thumbs up here at YouTube. If you've got any questions at all, pop them in the comment section below the video. We'll have in the description tab that's listed below, links to our website, which will give you all the components that we used to make the bracelet today. There's also the list of materials down there and links to our social media. So, if you want to share what you've done with us, pop it up on Instagram and tag us, or put it on our Facebook wall. We do love to see what you guys do with our tutorials. If you did really enjoy this tutorial and you haven't become a subscriber yet, consider doing that. Every bit of interaction we have with you guys here helps our little channel along, and it certainly encourages us to keep doing this sort of work in the future for you. Alright, so as I said, I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial today, and I will catch up with you guys again sometime in the future. Bye!